Jax Boone stood at the doorstep of his San Diego beachfront home, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. 14 months of classified operations had left their mark. A new scar across his left cheekbone, 15 pounds of added muscle, and eyes that had seen things they couldn't unsee. He hesitated before ringing the doorbell to his own house. The door swung open. Diana stood there, her copper hair catching the afternoon light, wearing a sundress he'd never seen before. "Jax," she whispered, her voice catching. Then her face crumpled with emotion as she threw herself into his arms. Something was off. Her embrace felt rehearsed, her perfume unfamiliar. "I've missed you so much," she said into his chest. He held her at arm's length, taking her in. "You look—" he started, but the words died in his throat as his gaze moved past her shoulder. A baby carrier sat on the living room coffee table. Diana followed his gaze, her smile faltering slightly. "I wanted to tell you as soon as I found out, but then your mission got extended and communications were so restricted." Her words tumbled out too quickly. "I thought it would be a wonderful surprise." Jax moved past her into the house, his mind calculating dates. "His name is Leo," Diana continued, her hand on Jax's arm. "He's 3 months old now." Jax stared at the sleeping infant. "Born 3 months ago. His deployment began 14 months ago." The math wasn't subtle. "He's beautiful," Jax said, watching Diana's face carefully. "When exactly did you find out you were pregnant?" Diana's smile stayed fixed, but her eyes flickered. "About 6 weeks after you left. I was going to tell you on our secured call, but then they said your mission was extended and communications would be limited." Jax nodded, noting the inconsistency. Their last secured call had been 8 weeks into his deployment, and she'd mentioned nothing. "Can I hold him?" Jax asked. Diana hesitated. "He just fell asleep. Maybe later." The doorbell rang. Diana jumped. "Expecting someone?" Jax asked. "That must be Vincent," Diana said, moving quickly to the door. "He's been such a help during the pregnancy and after Leo was born. A consultant for defense contractors. We met at a military spouse support group." Vincent Reeves stood in the doorway, tall with salt and pepper hair and a confident smile that dropped momentarily when he saw Jax. "Commander Boone, Diana didn't mention you'd be home today." He recovered quickly, extending his hand. "Vincent Reeves, it's an honor to meet you. Your reputation precedes you." Jax shook the man's hand, noting the calluses inconsistent with consultant work but perfectly aligned with tactical training. "Vincent brought us dinner," Diana explained. "He's been doing that twice a week since Leo was born." "Just trying to help out," Vincent said. "Military families need to stick together." "You serve?" Jax asked, knowing the answer. "Consultant only, I'm afraid. For F due to a childhood heart condition." Vincent tapped his chest. "But I work closely with your branch on equipment procurement." Dinner was a performance. Diana fussed over the baby while Vincent told sanitized stories about his work with military contractors. Jax played along, watching them both, noting the way Vincent's eyes lingered on Diana and the subtle touches they exchanged when they thought he wasn't looking. Later that night, as they prepared for bed, Diana brought Leo into their bedroom. "Look at him in the light," she insisted. "He has your nose. And that dimple when he smiles, that's all you." Jax looked at the baby. The boy had blue eyes, not unusual in infants, but they were a different shade than his own. The baby's ears curved differently than his or Diana's. Nothing about the child resembled the Boone family features. "He's perfect," Jax said, smiling at Diana. "You did good." Diana's relief was palpable. "I was so worried about doing this alone. The pregnancy was harder than I expected." Jax nodded thoughtfully. "Must have been rough with me gone so long. Good thing you had Vincent to help out." Diana's smile faltered slightly. "He's just a friend, Jax." "Of course," he replied, kissing her forehead while his mind raced back to their first meeting. It had been at a naval charity gala 4 years ago. Diana Winters, art dealer to wealthy military donors, had approached him directly. "Commander Boone," she'd said, extending her hand. "I've been hoping to meet you. Your reputation for bravery precedes you." Her directness had been refreshing after years of emotional unavailability following his parents' deaths. Their courtship had been a whirlwind, 6 months from meeting to marriage. As Diana slept beside him, Jax's phone vibrated with a text from Captain Warren Russell. "Report findings on Operation Blackbird upon secure channel verification. Trust standard protocols compromised." Jax deleted the message immediately. Operation Blackbird, his real mission, was still active. And now he knew why. Chapter 2. Suspicions and Secrets. The cotton swab slid gently along the inside of Leo's cheek. The baby stirred but didn't wake as Jax completed the impromptu DNA collection. He sealed the sample in a sterile container, then repeated the process with a strand of his own hair. By 6 a.m., both samples were on their way to Dexter Dock, Holloway's private lab, via secure courier. Jax returned to find Diana brewing coffee in the kitchen. She startled when he entered. "You're up early," she said, her hand moving instinctively to close her phone screen. "Military habits," he replied with a practiced smile. "Thought I'd take Leo for a morning walk so you could sleep in." Diana's knuckles whitened around her mug. "That's sweet, but he just fell back asleep. Maybe tomorrow." Jax nodded, making a mental note of her protectiveness of the child. "I'll head out for a run then. Clear my head." 3 miles down the beach, Jax stopped at a public bench and pulled out a burner phone. He dialed his sister. "Jax." Melissa answered immediately. "Are you back? Why aren't you calling from your regular number?" "Security protocol," he replied. "I need to see you. Privately." They met at a coffee shop downtown, away from military or family connections. Melissa's cybersecurity work had given her a healthy paranoia that matched his own. She hugged him tightly before sitting down. "You look like hell," she observed. "Good to see you too, Mel." He smiled genuinely for the first time since returning. "How have you been?" "Better than you, apparently." "Diana keeping you up all night with the baby?" Jax's expression must have changed because Melissa leaned forward. "What's wrong? When did you find out about Leo?" Melissa frowned. Diana posted photos about 7 months into her pregnancy. "I called to congratulate her." She paused. "She said you knew but couldn't discuss it due to mission protocols. Did that timing seem strange to you?" "I assumed." Melissa trailed off, her analytical mind recalibrating. "Wait, if she was 7 months pregnant then, and Leo is 3 months old now." "Exactly." Melissa's eyes widened. "Did you see her during your deployment?" "No." "Then how?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Jax lowered his voice. "Did you see her much while I was gone?" Melissa looked uncomfortable. "A few times at the beginning. Then she became distant. Said her pregnancy was high risk and needed bed rest." She hesitated. "I did see her about 6 months ago at Portofino's, though. She was with that guy Vincent. They seemed close." "Define close." His hand was on her back, then lower. "The kind of touch that's not just friendly." Melissa met his eyes. "I confronted her later. She said I was imagining things, that he was just supporting her because she felt faint." Jax nodded, absorbing this. "I need a favor." "Anything." "Run a deep background on Vincent Reeves. Off the books." As Jax jogged home, memories of his childhood surfaced. His father drilling him in survival techniques in the Montana wilderness. "Always have an exit strategy, son." His mother's gentler lessons in reading people. Both gone in a car accident that left too many unanswered questions when he was 17. The investigation he'd started by joining the Navy, following his father's footsteps while tracking down leads about the accident that had killed them. He returned home to find Diana on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. She switched to English when she noticed him. "Just confirming my gallery showing next week," she explained. The Kaczynski collection finally cleared customs. Jax nodded, pretending not to have recognized the Russian phrases she'd been using. That afternoon, while Diana napped, Jax accessed her laptop. Multiple layers of encryption, unusual for an art dealer. He plugged in a device Doc had given him years ago for emergencies, bypassing her security. What he found made his blood run cold. Surveillance photos of his SEAL team taken on classified missions. Deployment schedules. Base security protocols. His phone buzzed. A text from document, results ready. Negative match. Subject B shows genetic markers consistent with Eastern European ancestry. Jax deleted the message. Confirmation of what he already knew. That night, Diana initiated intimacy for the first time since his return. As she leaned over him, he noticed a tiny puncture mark on her index finger. When she left to use the bathroom, he checked his whiskey glass and detected a faint residue. He switched their glasses, then pretended to drink deeply when she returned. In bed, he feigned grogginess, slurring his speech slightly. Diana watched him carefully, checking her phone repeatedly. When she thought he was asleep, she slipped out of bed and made a call in the kitchen. "Duh, on Dizorienteroven," she whispered in Russian. Obraz Budet, god of Skoro. Rebenik, Nasha Strakovka. Jax translated mentally. Yes, he's disoriented. The image will be ready soon. The child is our insurance. He closed his eyes before she returned, his mind racing. Tomorrow, he would meet with Captain Russell and learn exactly what Operation Blackbird had uncovered, and why his wife was at the center of it. Chapter 3. The Mission Revealed. The safe house was a nondescript ranch-style home in Chula Vista. No surveillance equipment, no digital footprint, no paper trail. Captain Warren Russell sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of black coffee, when Jax arrived through the rear entrance. "You look like shit, Commander," Russell said by way of greeting. "Interesting welcome home I've had," Jax replied, taking a seat across from his commanding officer. Russell pushed a folder across the table. "I assume you've begun to piece things together." Jax opened the folder. The first photo showed Diana, or whatever her real name was, meeting with a known Russian operative in Prague. The timestamp indicated it was taken 2 years before he'd met her. Operation Blackbird was never about weapons smuggling, Jax said, flipping through more surveillance photos. "That was the cover," Russell confirmed. "The real mission was to identify and dismantle a sophisticated blackmail and intelligence-gathering operation targeting U.S. military personnel. We've codenamed it Cradle." "Cradle," Jax repeated. "They're playing the long game. Seduction, marriage, fake pregnancies with children acquired through surrogates. The operatives established themselves as military spouses with seemingly legitimate pregnancies during their targets' deployments. The children serve as both emotional leverage and apparent proof of the relationship's legitimacy." Jax studied a photo of Diana in Moscow training grounds, her hair shorter, her stance military. "How many others?" "We've confirmed 3 other SEAL team members have been compromised. 2 Marine Corps colonels. 4 Air Force pilots with nuclear clearance. And I was targeted because your access to naval deployment information. Your psychological profile after your parents' deaths made you an ideal candidate. Intense loyalty, desire for family connection, tendency to protect those in your care." Jax kept his expression neutral, but Russell knew the blow had landed. "You're telling me my wife is a deep-cover Russian operative who acquired a child to manipulate me? DNA confirmed the baby isn't yours. Analysis suggests the child was likely born to a surrogate selected for having features that could plausibly blend with yours and Diana's. Her real name, Natalia Sokolova, daughter of Dmitry Sokolov, former KGB, now runs a private military company with close Kremlin connections." Jax absorbed this, thinking of the woman who'd shared his bed for 3 years. "And Vincent Reeves?" Russell slid another file across the table. "Former CIA, dishonorably discharged for selling intelligence to foreign governments. Specializes in creating cover identities. We believe he's Diana's handler and possibly her lover. The baby's father? Unknown. But the genetic testing shows Eastern European markers consistent with Russian ancestry." Jax closed the file. "What's the play now? We need the entire network. Not just Diana and Vincent, but their handlers, their financing, every agent they've planted. You're in a unique position, Boone. They believe their cover is intact. You want me to play along? Become the asset they think you are? Feed them controlled information. Help us track where it goes." Jax thought of the woman sleeping in his bed, the child in the nursery. "And if I refuse?" Russell's expression hardened. "Then another team will handle the extraction. Diana and Vincent will disappear into interrogation facilities, and you'll be debriefed as a potential security compromise rather than as an active operative." A moment of silence stretched between them. "One question," Jax finally said. "The night my parents died, was that connected?" Russell hesitated. "We're looking into possible links. The timing suggests it could have been part of their initial targeting strategy." Jax stood. "I'm in, but I run the operation my way. We need results, Commander. You'll get them. But remember, this is personal now." When Jax returned home that evening, he found Diana hosting an impromptu dinner party. 4 of his fellow SEAL team members and their wives sat around their dining table while Vincent poured wine. "Surprise," Diana called out. "I thought you'd want to reconnect with your friends." Jax scanned the room. Lieutenant Commander Mike Phelps, whose wife had given birth during his last deployment. Chief Petty Officer Luis Garcia, recently engaged to a woman he'd met at a military fundraiser. Both men had access to classified deployment information. "This is perfect," Jax said, smiling as he kissed Diana's cheek. He felt her relax at his apparent pleasure. The evening proceeded with surface-level military banter, but Jax noted Diana's subtle information gathering. Questions about upcoming training exercises, casual mentions of base security measures, Vincent steering conversations toward operational readiness. As the guests were leaving, Diana's phone chimed. She glanced at it, her face paling slightly. Later, Jax found an envelope on their bed. Inside were photos of Vincent with another woman in what appeared to be a Moscow safe house. A note in Cyrillic read, "Insurance policy activated. Cradle is compromised." Diana entered the bedroom, stopping when she saw the envelope in his hands. For the first time since his return, genuine fear crossed her face. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. Jax held up the photos. "Interesting friends you have." "Jax, I can explain." "I'm sure you can," he interrupted, watching her carefully. "But first, I think it's time we had an honest conversation about who you really are, Natalia." Chapter 4. Playing the Game. 3 days had passed since Jax confronted Diana with the photos. 3 days of carefully choreographed deception on both sides. "My medication," Jax mumbled, hands shaking as he fumbled with the orange prescription bottle Diana had procured. "The nightmares are getting worse." Diana watched him with a practiced look of concern. "The doctor said it might take time for the PTSD treatments to work." Jax nodded, pretending to swallow the pills while actually tucking them under his tongue. The contents, analyzed by Doc, contained tracking compounds and mild sedatives. Nothing lethal, but enough to keep him compliant and traceable. "I'm worried about you," Diana said, rubbing his shoulders. "Maybe we should consider inpatient treatment?" "No facilities," Jax slurred. "Need to be home with you and Leo." Diana's relieved smile told him his performance was working. She believed her plan was proceeding, keeping him disoriented while extracting information. When she left to run errands with Leo, Jax activated the surveillance system he'd installed throughout the house. Tiny cameras in electrical outlets, microphones and light fixtures, tracking software on her devices. His home had become a counterintelligence operations center. His phone buzzed with a message from Riley Jenkins. They'd served together in naval intelligence before she'd left the service after her husband's death, an operation compromised by an information leak that Jax now suspected might be connected to Diana's network. "Found something," her text read. "Meeting Point Alpha. 1 hour." The coffee shop near the Naval Hospital provided excellent coverage. Busy enough for anonymity, but quiet enough for conversation. Riley sat in the corner booth, her dark hair pulled back, eyes constantly scanning the room. "Thanks for digging into this," Jax said, sliding into the seat across from her. Riley pushed a tablet toward him. "Your wife's gallery specializes in Eastern European art for a reason. Perfect cover for regular travel to former Soviet states." She swiped through financial records showing transactions between Diana's gallery and shell companies controlled by Dmitry Sokolov. "There's more," Riley continued. "Vincent's defense contracting company? It's received over $12 million in funding from subsidiaries of Sokolov's conglomerate. They're not even trying to hide the connection. They didn't expect anyone to look. Most of these transactions are legitimately structured for tax and regulatory purposes." Riley leaned forward. "Jax, this operation has been in place for years. Long-term penetration of military family networks. Any connection to Melissa?" Riley nodded grimly. "Her cybersecurity firm just received an invitation to bid on a contract for Vincent's company, offering 3 times the market rate. They're targeting my family as leverage." Jax's voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. "What about the baby?" "That was harder to trace," Riley admitted. "But I found records of a Ukrainian surrogate who entered the country last year through a medical visa program. She supposedly returned home after the birth, but there's no record of her leaving the U.S. The implication hung in the air between them. "Did Captain Russell share his theory about my parents' accident?" Riley hesitated. "It's circumstantial, Jax. But Sokolov's operatives were in Montana the week they died." Jax absorbed this, his expression unchanging. "I need to meet Vincent alone. Can you arrange something?" "Already did," Riley replied. "I've created an investment opportunity too tempting for him to pass up. Naval Retirement Fund Management. Access to financial information on hundreds of high-ranking officers." That evening, Jax pretended to work on his laptop while actually monitoring Diana's communications. She made 3 calls to blocked numbers, speaking in coded phrases about delivery schedules and inventory verification, typical terms for intelligence handoffs. When Leo began crying, Jax watched on the hidden camera as Diana entered the nursery. Her demeanor changed completely when she thought no one was watching. She held the baby with genuine tenderness, whispering in Russian what sounded like a lullaby. For a moment, her mask slipped, revealing what appeared to be authentic emotional attachment. "I won't let them use you," she whispered to the child. "Whatever happens." Jax frowned, unsure if this was another layer of deception or a glimpse of something real. 2 days later, Jax met Vincent at an upscale restaurant overlooking the harbor. The older man ordered Scotch neat and offered a practiced smile. "Diana mentioned you've been having trouble sleeping," Vincent said. "Adjustment can be difficult after extended deployments. Especially when you come home to a family that didn't exist when you left," Jax replied, watching Vincent's reaction carefully. The smile remained fixed. "Diana wanted to surprise you. She was devastated when your mission was extended." "I bet she was." Jax leaned forward. "Let's cut the shit, Vincent. We both know what's happening here." "I'm not sure I follow." "The Wagner Group just repositioned assets near our installation in Bahrain," Jax interrupted, referencing classified information only someone with his clearance would know. 3 submarine deployments have been rescheduled, and there's chatter about a new targeting system for the carrier group in the South China Sea. Vincent's expression remained neutral, but his pulse visibly quickened at his neck. "That sounds like classified information, Commander. Information worth having, isn't it?" Jack smiled coldly. "My career is stalled. 3 years passed over for promotion because I wouldn't play politics. Meanwhile, Diana's gallery is struggling financially, and I've got a kid to think about now." Vincent studied him for a long moment. "That's quite a change in perspective. 14 months in a combat zone changes a man." Jax tossed back his whiskey. "I've served my country faithfully. What has it gotten me? A wife who lies about where she goes during the day and a child that—" He let the sentence hang. "That what?" Vincent pressed. "That deserves a better future than a career military man can provide." Later, Jax listened through his surveillance system as Vincent made a call from his car. "Assets showing susceptibility," Vincent reported. "Offering classified information unprompted. Recommend accelerated timeline for extraction and handover." The voice that responded was female with a slight Eastern European accent. "Proceed with caution. Verify information before full commitment. This could be counterintelligence." "The psychological profile supports genuine disillusionment," Vincent argued. "Combat fatigue combined with the shock of the child's situation." "Test him," the woman ordered. "Low-level intelligence, transfer first. If clean, proceed to primary extraction." The game was in motion. Now Jax needed to prepare his countermove. Chapter 5, Web of Lies. Jax sat in Captain Russell's office, surrounded by maps and surveillance photos of Diana meeting with known Russian operatives. "She's escalating her information gathering," Russell said, reviewing the intelligence Jax had collected. "The disinformation we planted about the Bahrain installation made its way to Moscow within 48 hours. Vincent took the bait. Jax confirmed. "He's convinced I'm turning." Russell placed 3 photographs on the desk. "These are the wives of your fellow SEAL team members. All 3 have been confirmed as part of the same network as Diana." Jax recognized them immediately. Monica Phelps, Anya Garcia, and Stephanie Williams. All married to men with high security clearances, all with access to sensitive information through their husbands. "We've been infiltrated at every level," Jax said quietly, "which is why we need to dismantle the entire operation simultaneously." Russell pointed to a calendar. 3 weeks from now, we'll have enough evidence to move against all identified operatives. Until then, keep feeding the disinformation pipeline." Back home, Jax began the next phase of his plan, leaving his therapy journal conspicuously visible while appearing to hide it whenever Diana entered the room. The journal contained a carefully crafted mix of personal anguish, military disillusionment, and specific but falsified intelligence about naval vulnerabilities. Diana took the bait, photographing the journal pages when she thought he was showering. Through his surveillance, Jax watched her transmit the images to an encrypted server. "Come to bed," Diana called from their bedroom that night. "You've been distant since your appointment with Dr. Bryant." The fictional therapist was a creation of Diana's. Appointments Jax supposedly attended but were actually meetings with Russell's team. Just processing some things, he said. Jax replied, climbing into bed beside her. About trust issues from my childhood. Diana's hand traced patterns on his chest. You never talk much about your parents. Not much to say? Car accident when I was 17. Official report said mechanical failure, but my father was meticulous about maintenance. Jax purposely let bitterness enter his voice. Someone wanted them dead. Military investigators closed the case too quickly. He felt Diana tense slightly. Why would anyone target them? My father had started asking questions about discrepancies in supply chains for Afghanistan operations. Money disappearing, equipment never arriving. 3 weeks later, their brake lines failed on a mountain road. This was partially true. The circumstances of his parents' death had always been suspicious, but the connection to Afghanistan was fabricated for Diana's benefit. The military protects its own interests, Diana said carefully. Maybe that's why your promotion keeps getting delayed. They see your father in you. Maybe, Jax agreed, planting the seed. Or maybe someone's been interfering with my career advancement. The next morning, Diana announced she needed to visit her gallery. Jax tracked her instead to an abandoned warehouse where she met with a woman he didn't recognize. He photographed the meeting from a distance, sending the images to Riley for identification. Her response came quickly. Katia Orlova, GRU operative. Specializes in deep cover operations targeting military installations. When Diana returned, Jax pretended to be working on the secure laptop containing naval deployment codes. He deliberately entered an access sequence that would flag naval intelligence while appearing to download classified files. Need anything from the kitchen? Diana asked, casually positioning herself to view his screen. I'm good, Jax replied, leaving the laptop open as he stretched. Just updating some personnel files before the system maintenance tonight. Diana's eyes flickered to the screen. System maintenance. 8-hour security protocol update. All remote access will be locked down. Jax yawned. Perfect timing to catch up on sleep. That night, pretending to take Diana's drugged tea, Jax feigned drowsiness as she guided him to the couch. Just rest, she soothed, easing him down. I'll finish those personnel reports for you. Jax mumbled incoherently, watching through half-closed eyes as Diana accessed his laptop. She connected a specialized drive to copy files while making a phone call. He's under sedation, she whispered. I'm extracting the deployment codes now. Vincent's contact at the harbor confirmed the security update window. 8 hours to complete transfer and validation. A male voice responded, too low for Jax to hear clearly. The extraction point is confirmed, Diana continued. Warehouse B at the Marine Terminal. Midnight tomorrow. After Diana returned to bed, convinced he was unconscious on the couch, Jack slipped out to the garage and transmitted the recorded conversation to Captain Russell. The trap was set. At breakfast, Diana was unusually attentive, refilling his coffee cup and suggesting a family day at the park. Your old friend Katia called, Jax mentioned casually. Said she's in town from New York and wanted to meet for dinner. Diana's coffee cup halted midway to her lips. Katia said you grew up together in Connecticut. Jax watched her recover quickly. Of course. I forgot she was visiting. We should definitely have her over. Diana's smile was perfectly composed, but her pulse visibly raced at her neck. You'll like her. That evening, Katia Orlova arrived for dinner. In her mid-40s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing, she embraced Diana warmly, speaking rapid-fire Russian before switching to accented English. Commander Boone, she said, extending her hand. Diana has told me so much about you. Funny, Jax replied with a smile. She's never mentioned you. Dinner was an elaborate dance of falsified memories and coded conversations. Jax pretended to drink heavily while Katia and Diana exchanged glances and subtle nods. Your military must be proud of your service, Katia said as they moved to coffee. Diana mentioned you're involved with deployment planning. Some aspects, Jax replied vaguely. Most of it's automated now through secure systems. But someone must oversee those systems, Katia pressed. Ensure they're functioning correctly. That would be above my clearance. Jax lied, noting Diana's slight frown. After Katia left, Diana confronted him in the kitchen. You were rude to my oldest friend. I don't like being interrogated in my own home. Jax replied, letting anger show. What's her real interest in my work? She's just making conversation. Bullshit, Jax interrupted. Every question targeted my access to deployment information. Is she recruiting for Vincent's defense contracts? Diana's expression shifted from defensive to calculating. Vincent mentioned you two discussed some investment opportunities. Is that what this is about? You're worried about conflict of interest. I'm worried about people using our relationship to get to classified information, Jack shot back. First Vincent, now your friend from Connecticut who speaks Russian with a Moscow accent. You're being paranoid. Am I? Jax moved closer. Then explain why you drugged my drink tonight. And last night. And why you accessed my secure laptop while I was unconscious. Diana's face went perfectly still. Jax, I don't know what you think. I know exactly what's happening. Jax's voice dropped dangerously low. The question is, what are you going to do now that your cover is blown, Natalia? For a moment, genuine fear flashed in Diana's eyes. Then, surprising them both, baby Leo began wailing through the monitor. Diana used the interruption to retreat upstairs, leaving Jax alone in the kitchen, listening to her soothe the child in soft Russian. The next phase of his plan was ready. The question was whether Diana would run or play her final card. Chapter 6, Collapsing House of Cards. Diana sat across the table, her composure remarkable considering the circumstances. The baby monitor between them broadcast Leo's soft breathing from the nursery upstairs. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Since before I returned, Jax replied, watching her carefully. Operation Blackbird uncovered your network. Diana nodded slowly, processing this. And the deployment codes? Falsified. The team extracted from Bahrain yesterday was in a different location. The submarine positions were decoys. Jax leaned forward. Every piece of intelligence you've transmitted has been tracked to its destination. We've identified 17 of your operatives embedded with military families. Impressive, Diana conceded. Is Vincent in custody? Not yet. We're letting this play out to get everyone involved. Diana's laugh held no humor. You won't get everyone. This operation goes higher than you imagine. All the way to your father? Jax watched her flinch. Yes, we know about Dmitry Sokolov. A look of genuine fear crossed Diana's face before she masked it. If you know who he is, then you understand what he's capable of. I understand perfectly. Just like I understand what happened to my parents 14 years ago. Diana's expression shifted slightly. That wasn't supposed to happen. The operation only called for disabling your father's investigation into the supply chain discrepancies. So you admit your father's organization was responsible. Not directly. A contractor overreacted, tampered with the brakes instead of the engine as ordered. Diana met his gaze steadily. For what it's worth, the man responsible was punished severely. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Jax's voice remained controlled, but his eyes hardened. Your organization murdered my parents, targeted me for years, manipulated me into marriage, and acquired a child to maintain your cover. Diana glanced toward the baby monitor. Leo wasn't supposed to happen either. That was Kadia's addition to the operation. Insurance to prevent extraction if you became suspicious. Where did he come from? Diana hesitated. A surrogate. Ukrainian woman promised passage to America. She was told the child would go to a loving family unable to conceive. And after the birth? Diana looked away. Standard protocol for removing loose ends. Jax absorbed this, his expression unchanging. Why are you telling me all this now? You must know it won't change anything. Because I'm offering you something in return. Diana reached slowly into her pocket and removed a flash drive. Complete details of my father's operation. Not just the military spouse network, but his entire global intelligence apparatus. Weapons pipelines, blackmail operations, political assets, everything. Jax studied her. And what do you want in exchange? Immunity. New identity. Witness protection. She glanced at the baby monitor again. For both of us. You expect me to believe you've suddenly developed a conscience. I expect you to recognize an opportunity. Diana's mask slipped, showing genuine desperation. My father's organization has contingency protocols. If I don't make scheduled contact, activation teams target everyone connected to the compromised operative. You, your sister, your friends, everyone. Why should I trust anything you say? Diana pushed the flash drive across the table. Because despite everything, I don't want to see you dead. She hesitated. And because not everything was a lie. Before Jax could respond, his phone buzzed with a message from Captain Russell. Vincent on the move. Heading to your location. Intercept team en route. Jax showed Diana the message. Looks like your partner's coming to collect you. He's not coming for me. Diana's face paled. He's coming for Leo. Why would Vincent want the baby? Because Leo isn't just any child. Diana stood abruptly. He's my brother's son, created posthumously after Alexei was killed in Syria. The last male Sokolov. My father's only grandson and heir. Understanding dawned on Jax. The ultimate insurance policy. My father would burn his entire network to recover Leo. Diana moved toward the stairs. And Vincent knows it. A crash from the front of the house interrupted them. Smoke billowed from the entryway as flashbang grenades detonated. Upstairs, Jax shouted, pushing Diana toward the back stairs as armed men in tactical gear breached the front door. They reached the nursery just as Vincent appeared in the doorway, holding Leo. Too late, Commander, Vincent said calmly, a pistol aimed at Jax. The extraction is already complete. This wasn't the plan, Diana said, stepping forward. Leo stays with me until the handover. Plans change, Vincent replied. Your father lost confidence in your loyalty. Something about missed communications and suspicious information transfers. Vincent, please, Diana's voice softened. You don't have to do this. We can disappear together. You, me, and Leo. Vincent's laugh was cold. Always the manipulator. Your father warned me about your true nature. He shifted his aim to Diana. You've compromised the entire operation with your sentimentality. Jax moved slightly, positioning himself between Diana and Vincent. The house is surrounded. Naval intelligence, FBI, everyone's here. There's no way out. There's always a way out, Commander. Vincent smiled thinly. Your fatal flaw is assuming your government is the only player in this game. A helicopter roared overhead, searchlights illuminating the room through the windows. That's not your extraction, Jax said, tension building as shouts and gunfire erupted downstairs. Vincent's smile faltered as he glanced up. What did you do? I didn't do anything, Jax replied. But it seems Diana's father has arrived to collect his grandson personally. Vincent's momentary distraction was all Jax needed. He lunged forward, tackling Vincent while protecting the baby. They crashed into the wall, the gun discharging harmlessly into the ceiling. Diana grabbed Leo as Jax and Vincent struggled. Run, Jax shouted to Diana. Backstairs to the panic room. Vincent fought with surprising strength for his age, landing a vicious blow to Jax's temple. You think you've won? He hissed. This operation has been active for decades. Cut off one head, 2 more appear. Then I'll keep cutting, Jax replied, delivering a devastating strike to Vincent's solar plexus. The bedroom door burst open as Captain Russell and his tactical team secured the room. Diana? Jax asked, breathing heavily. In pursuit, Russell confirmed. She's headed for the rear exit with the child. Jax ran downstairs to find chaos. Multiple tactical teams engaged in a firefight with black-clad operatives who had rappelled from the helicopter. Diana was nowhere in sight. Outside, a black SUV screeched away from the house. Through the rear window, Jax caught a glimpse of Diana clutching Leo protectively. Driving his own vehicle in pursuit, Jax called Russell. Diana's escaping with the baby. Headed east on Harbor Drive. We've got her on satellite, Russell replied. Multiple extraction teams converging. Jax, be advised, we've confirmed Dmitry Sokolov is personally commanding the helicopter team. The chase led to the harbor, where Diana's SUV skidded to a stop at a private marina. She ran toward a sleek yacht with Leo in her arms, pursued by operatives from multiple agencies. Jax intercepted her at the dock. It's over, Diana. She turned, desperation in her eyes. You don't understand. If my father gets Leo, he'll raise him to take over the organization. Everything starts again with a new generation. Then surrender to us, Jax urged, approaching carefully. We can protect you both. Diana's laugh held no humor. You can't protect anyone from my father. The helicopter appeared overhead, spotlights illuminating them on the dock. A voice boomed in Russian, demanding Diana hand over the child. Diana looked from the helicopter to Jax, then down at Leo. Her expression shifted from fear to resolve. One thing wasn't a lie, she said, barely audible over the rotor noise. I did love you. She pressed Leo into Jax's arms, then shoved him back toward the shore. Run? I'll hold them off. Before Jax could protest, Diana drew a concealed weapon and fired at the helicopter. The spotlight shattered, plunging the dock into relative darkness. "Go," she screamed. Jax hesitated for one heartbeat, then turned and ran with Leo. Behind him, the dock erupted in gunfire. He reached Russell's position as tactical teams engaged the helicopter forces. "Diana?" Russell's expression said everything. "She bought you time." Jax looked down at the child in his arms, a boy born of deception and manipulation, yet innocent of all crimes. Leo blinked up at him with curious eyes. "What happens now?" Jax asked. "That depends," Russell replied, nodding toward the baby. "What do you want to happen?" The helicopter retreated over the ocean, disappearing into the night. Whether Dmitry Sokolov had been captured or escaped remained unclear. Vincent was in custody, along with 15 other identified operatives from the network. Looking down at Leo, Jax made a decision that would define the next chapter of his life, one not driven by deception, but by the possibility of redemption. Chapter 7. Hunter and Hunted. 3 days after the marina shootout, Jax sat in a secured safe house holding Leo. The baby had adapted surprisingly well to the chaos, regarding Jax with curious eyes that seemed too knowing for an infant. "Status update," Captain Russell said, entering with coffee cups and a tablet. "Diana's body?" Jax asked, his voice controlled. "Not recovered. The dock was rigged with explosives, detonated remotely during the firefight." Russell sat across from him. "No confirmed Kia." Jax nodded, unsurprised. "And Sokolov?" "The helicopter escaped to international waters. Satellite tracked it to a cargo vessel headed to the South Pacific." Vincent, talking, but selectively, claims he was working deep cover for an NSA Black Ops division all along. Russell's expression showed what he thought of that story. Convenient way to try securing immunity. Jax looked down at Leo, who had fallen asleep against his chest. "What about him?" "Child services." Russell studied Jax carefully. "That's one option. Witness protection is another. But there's a complication. Dmitry Sokolov has filed legal claims through 3 different international courts, asserting biological relationship and custodial rights." "DNA confirmed?" "Preliminary tests support his claim of being the child's grandfather." Jax's jaw tightened. "So Sokolov gets his heir after all?" "Not necessarily." Russell hesitated. "There's another option. You could claim custody as the child's presumptive father. Your name is on the birth certificate. And raise the son of the organization that killed my parents and tried to compromise national security?" Jax's voice was neutral, but his arms unconsciously tightened around Leo. "Or raise a boy who had no choice in how he came into this world," Russell countered. "Break the cycle." Their conversation was interrupted by Riley Jenkins entering the room. "We've got movement. Diana's access codes were used at a storage facility in La Jolla 30 minutes ago." "She's alive," Jax said, rising carefully to avoid waking Leo. "Or someone's using her credentials," Russell cautioned. "Either way, we need to move." Doc arrived to watch Leo while the team mobilized. As Jax handed the baby over, Doc asked quietly, "You coming back for him?" Jax hesitated, looking at the sleeping child. "Yes," he finally said. "I'm coming back." The storage facility was high-end, catering to wealthy clients who valued discretion. Security footage showed a woman matching Diana's description, though wearing a disguise, accessing Unit 447 before departing in a black sedan. "No plates visible," Riley noted, reviewing the footage. "Professional tradecraft." They approached the storage unit cautiously. Inside, they found an empty room except for a single file box in the center. "Could be trapped," Russell warned. After a thorough check confirmed no explosives, Jax opened the box. Inside were files, passports, and a laptop, along with a handwritten note. "For Leo's protection. If I don't survive, this will keep him safe from my father." The files contained detailed intelligence on Sokolov's entire operation: safe houses, operatives, financial networks, blackmail targets. Everything Diana had promised on the flash drive, but more comprehensive. "She prepared this as an insurance policy," Riley said, examining the documents. "This is enough to cripple Sokolov's entire network." "Or it's elaborate disinformation," Russell cautioned. Jax found a sealed envelope addressed to him personally. Inside was a small tracking device and another note. "Leo has an identical implant behind his left ear. Only these 2 devices can locate each other. My father's men will have the frequency by now. You have 48 hours before they find him." The baby's been chipped, Russell demanded. Standard protocol for high-value assets, Jax confirmed, remembering Diana's earlier comments. We need to move him immediately. Back at the safe house, Doc confirmed the presence of a tiny subcutaneous transmitter. I can remove it, but not here. Need a proper surgical setup. My clinic, Riley suggested. Off the grid, no digital footprint. As they prepared to move, Jax received a scrambled call on the secure line. The voice was distorted but recognizable. They're coming for Leo, Diana said without preamble. Not just my father's men, Vincent activated his own extraction team. He's been playing both sides. Where are you? Jax demanded. That doesn't matter. Vincent's team will hit your location in 15 minutes. They've compromised Russell's security protocols. The line went dead as explosions rocked the perimeter of the safe house. Move, Jax shouted, grabbing Leo as security alarms blared. They escaped through a hidden tunnel just as armed operatives breached the main entrance. Emerging 2 blocks away, they split into separate vehicles. Rendezvous at alternate location Charlie, Russell ordered before departing with half the team. Jax, Riley, and Doc took Leo in an unmarked SUV, using side streets to avoid potential surveillance. How did they find us so quickly? Riley asked, checking their tail. Someone in Russell's command chain is compromised, Jax replied, cradling Leo protectively as Doc drove. Diana was right about Vincent playing both sides. At Riley's clinic, Doc prepared to remove Leo's tracking implant. Local anesthetic only, he explained. Can't risk anything stronger on an infant. Jax held Leo still during the procedure, murmuring soothing words as Doc carefully extracted the tiny device. Got it, Doc said, dropping the transmitter into a lead-lined container. We should move it far from here to create a false trail. Riley volunteered to take the transmitter to the harbor, where it could be planted on an outbound vessel. As she left, Jax received another encrypted call. Pier 19, Diana said. Container 8547. Vincent's private extraction vehicle. Departing midnight tonight. Why are you helping us? Jax asked. A pause. Because Leo deserves better than my father's world. Another pause. And because I meant what I said before. Not everything was a lie. The line went dead again. Doc looked at Jax questioningly. Could be a trap, Jax acknowledged. But we need to know Vincent's endgame. While Doc remained with Leo, Jax infiltrated the commercial shipping area of the harbor. Container 8547 had been modified into a mobile command center with communications equipment and weapons. Documents inside revealed Vincent's true operation. He'd been building his own intelligence network separate from Sokolov's, using the Russians' resources while developing independent assets. His end goal appeared to be auctioning both Leo and the accumulated intelligence to the highest bidder, whether Sokolov or a rival organization. Jax photographed everything, then rigged the container with surveillance equipment before departing. Returning to Riley's clinic, he found Doc watching over Leo with a concerned expression. Russell called, Doc reported. Diana's been spotted boarding a private yacht registered to one of Sokolov's companies. And there's something else. Vincent escaped during transport. Jax processed this information. When does the yacht depart? That's just it. It already left port an hour ago, heading south toward Mexican waters. Jax made a decision. We need to get Leo completely off the grid, somewhere not connected to any of us. I might know a place, Doc offered. My cousin's cabin in the Sierra Nevadas. No digital footprint, defensible position, fully stocked for emergencies. Make it happen, Jax ordered. And Doc, only you and I know the location. Tell no one, not even Russell. Doc nodded, understanding the implications. You think the compromise goes that high? I think we can't risk Leo's safety on assumptions of loyalty. As they prepared to move again, Jax studied the sleeping baby. Despite everything, he felt a growing sense of responsibility toward the child, a connection that transcended biology and deception. Whatever happened next, he would protect Leo from those who saw him only as a pawn in their dangerous games. Chapter 8. Sins of the Father. The Sierra Nevada cabin was primitive but secure, solar power, well water, natural sight lines, and multiple escape routes. Perfect for disappearing. For 3 days, Jax and Doc took turns on watch while caring for Leo. The baby seemed to thrive in the peaceful mountain setting, his curious eyes tracking their movements, tiny hands reaching for Jax's face during feedings. He's bonding with you. Doc observed on the third morning. Kids are resilient. They attach to whoever provides consistent care. Jax didn't respond, but found himself increasingly protective of the child. This boy created as a pawn but innocent of the sins surrounding his creation. Their satellite phone buzzed with a message from Riley. Confirmed sighting. D aboard vessel Sokolov's Pride, headed toward coordinates in South Pacific. Satellite imagery attached. The attached photos showed a luxury yacht approaching a private island outside normal shipping lanes and beyond international jurisdiction. My father's sanctuary, Diana had once called it during a rare, unguarded moment, where kings and dictators go to disappear. A second message from Riley arrived. V-Mobile again. Multiple teams activated. Russell wounded in firefight at secondary safe house. Communications compromised. Trust no operational channels. Jax processed this information, weighing options. We need to draw them out, he finally told Document. As long as Leo exists, Sokolov and Vincent will keep coming. What are you suggesting? Doc asked cautiously. We can't use a child as bait. Not Leo, Jax clarified. The tracking implant. We send it to the island on a separate vessel. Make them think we're bringing Leo to Diana. And then what? We end this. Permanently. Using Riley as an intermediary, Jax arranged for a private seaplane ostensibly carrying him and Leo to depart for coordinates near Sokolov's Island. In reality, the plane carried only the tracking implant and a team of Russell's most trusted operatives. The satellite phone rang as the plane approached the island's airspace. Turn back. Diana's voice was urgent. It's a trap. Vincent reached my father first. They know you're coming. Where are you? Jax demanded. On the island. Under guard. Her voice lowered. My father discovered my role in exposing his network. I'm no longer a daughter, just another asset to be eliminated after extraction of valuable intelligence. And Leo? My father still wants him. Vincent has convinced him that Leo is key to rebuilding the operation, the next generation. A pause. Jax, Vincent knows Leo isn't on that plane. They're using it to trace your actual location. The line went dead as Jax heard shouting in the background. Doc looked at him with alarm. If they've traced the satellite phone, we move. Now. Jax grabbed the go bag while Doc collected Leo. They barely made it to the emergency vehicle before the first helicopter appeared over the mountain ridge, a sleek black craft with no identification markings. They're not taking chances this time, Doc noted grimly as they navigated the rough mountain roads. That's a military-grade assault chopper. Jax's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Shipping container. Port of Oakland. Berth 64. Midnight. No signature, but he recognized the phrasing as Diana's. Could be another trap, Doc warned. Or our only chance to end this. They changed vehicles twice before reaching Oakland, using cash and false identification arranged through Riley's underground contacts. Throughout the journey, Leo remained surprisingly calm, sleeping against Jax's chest as if sensing the need for quiet. The Port of Oakland at night was a maze of shipping containers and industrial equipment. Jax approached berth 64 alone, having left Leo with Doc in a secured location nearby. The specified container stood apart from others, its doors slightly ajar. Inside, he found Diana, bruised and exhausted but alive. You shouldn't have come, she said without preamble. Vincent tracked me here. I know, Jax replied calmly. That's the plan. Understanding dawned in Diana's eyes. You're using me as bait to draw them out. Just like they used Leo to manipulate both of us. Diana nodded slowly. Where is he? Safe. Jax replied, revealing nothing more. My father is on his way personally. Vincent convinced him this was too important to delegate. Diana moved closer, her voice dropping. There's something you need to know about Leo. Vincent lied about his parentage. What do you mean? Leo isn't my brother's son. The DNA would show Sokolov family markers because, she hesitated. Because he's mine. Biologically. Jax stared at her. That's impossible. The timeline. Egg harvesting during a routine medical procedure 3 years ago. Storage until needed for the operation. I never knew until Vincent revealed it during my interrogation. Diana's eyes held a desperation Jax had never seen before. My father plans to raise him as his heir, erase any memory of me. Before Jax could respond, shots rang out from the darkness surrounding the container. Right on schedule, Jax muttered, pulling Diana behind cover as bullets pinged against the metal walls. Through his earpiece, Russell's voice confirmed. Teams in position, drawing them toward containment zone. Vincent, Jax asked. Identified approaching from the north. Sokolov's helicopter just landed at the auxiliary airfield. The trap was set. Naval intelligence snipers positioned around the container yard would herd Vincent's team toward a prepared ambush zone while a separate team intercepted Sokolov. Stay here, Jax instructed Diana. When Russell's team secures the perimeter, they'll extract you. Where are you going? To finish this. Jax moved through the container yard like a ghost, using the skills honed through years of special operations. Vincent would expect him to remain with Diana, the obvious target. Instead, Jax circled behind the attacking force. He found Vincent coordinating the assault from a mobile command vehicle, directing teams through encrypted communications. Impressive operation, Jax said, materializing from the shadows with his weapon trained on Vincent. Private military contractors, cutting-edge equipment, multiple extraction scenarios. Vincent turned slowly, unsurprised. You're more resourceful than your file suggested, Commander. Files never tell the whole story. Jax kept his aim steady. Like how you've been building your own organization using Sokolov's resources, planning to auction Leo and the intelligence to the highest bidder. Vincent smiled thinly. Business is business. Sokolov had his day. The future belongs to nimble, independent operators. And Leo? Just another commodity. A valuable one. Do you have any idea what certain organizations would pay for a child with provable Sokolov DNA? The blackmail potential alone is worth millions. Jax's expression remained neutral. You miscalculated. Did I? Vincent's smile widened. I located you, didn't I? Even now, my secondary team is moving on your precious doctor friend and the baby. Jax's blood ran cold, but his training kept his reaction invisible. Another miscalculation. Leo isn't with document. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Vincent's face. You're bluffing. Am I? Jax stepped closer. You taught Diana well, but she learned from your mistakes too. The false trail, the multiple extraction scenarios, she designed those protocols. A detonation rocked the container yard as Russell's team initiated the containment operation. Vincent used the distraction to reach for his weapon, but Jax was faster. A single shot to Vincent's shoulder disarmed him. You won't kill me, Vincent gasped, clutching his wound. You need what I know. Actually, Jax replied calmly. Everything you know is already in our possession. Diana's insurance policy was quite thorough. Fear registered in Vincent's eyes as he realized his leverage was gone. We can make a deal. The time for deals is over. Jax secured Vincent for Russell's extraction team, then moved toward the secondary objective, Dmitry Sokolov himself. The Russian oligarch had established a command post in an empty warehouse, surrounded by private security. At 65, Sokolov remained imposing, tall with silver hair and cold eyes that assessed everything in terms of value and weakness. Jax infiltrated the warehouse through an overhead skylight, listening as Sokolov berated his security team. Find my daughter and grandson, he ordered in accented English. Kill anyone else. Your daughter's already secured, Jax announced, dropping to the warehouse floor with his weapon ready. As for the boy, he's beyond your reach now. Sokolov studied him with calculated interest. Commander Boone, at last we meet properly. 14 years too late, Jax replied. I should have been facing you instead of identifying my parents' bodies. Business, Sokolov said dismissively. Nothing personal. It became personal when you targeted my family. When you sent your daughter to manipulate me. Sokolov's laugh held no humor. And yet here you are, fighting to protect her. My Natalia always had a gift for inspiring loyalty, even in her targets. I'm not protecting Diana, Jax clarified. I'm protecting Leo from becoming what you would make him. The boy is Sokolov blood. My legacy. The oligarch's expression hardened. You have no claim to him. Biology isn't the only measure of fatherhood, Jax replied. But if that's your standard, the DNA tests confirm Leo carries Sokolov markers through Diana, not your son. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Sokolov's face. Impossible. Alexei's genetic material was never used, Jax finished for him. Vincent modified the protocol. The child is Diana's, but the father isn't who you think. Before Sokolov could respond, gunfire erupted outside as Russell's team engaged the security forces. You're surrounded, Jax informed him. Your organization is exposed. Your assets frozen. Your network dismantled. Sokolov regarded him coldly. You think you've won? Men like me don't lose, Commander. We simply withdraw temporarily. His hand moved toward an inner pocket. Don't, Jax warned. The Russian ignored him, pulling out not a weapon but a phone. One call activates protocols you cannot imagine. Dead man switches on intelligence that would destabilize governments, including yours. Make your call, Jax replied calmly. Those systems were neutralized 2 hours ago. Rage transformed Sokolov's face as he realized the extent of his defeat. He lunged forward with unexpected speed for a man his age, a hidden blade appearing in his hand. Jax sidestepped, using Sokolov's momentum against him. They struggled briefly before Jax subdued him. As Russell's team secured the warehouse, Jax stood over the man who had orchestrated so much deception and death. Your legacy ends here, Jax told the defeated oligarch. But Leo's is just beginning. Chapter 9, Reclamation. 6 months later, Jax sat on the deck of a modest coastal home, watching Leo take halting steps toward him across the wooden planks. At 11 months old, the boy was reaching milestones rapidly, walking early, babbling constantly, his eyes bright with intelligence. Got you, Jax exclaimed as Leo stumbled into his arms, the boy's delighted laughter washing away the darker memories that still occasionally haunted Jax's dreams. Melissa appeared from inside the house with lemonade. He's getting faster every day, she observed, settling into a chair beside her brother. Soon he'll be running circles around you. Already is, Jax admitted, bouncing Leo on his knee. The DNA confirmation of Diana's revelation had simplified the custody situation legally, if not emotionally. With both Diana and Sokolov in federal custody, Jax had been granted full guardianship of Leo pending final adoption proceedings. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of Riley and Doc for their weekly dinner, a tradition that had formed around Leo's care and Jax's reintegration into civilian life. Captain Russell called, Riley reported as they gathered around the outdoor table. Sokolov's trial begins next month. They've secured enough evidence for multiple life sentences. And Diana? Jax asked, keeping his tone neutral. Witness protection program after her testimony concludes. New identity, new location, complete blackout. Jax nodded, focusing on helping Leo with his dinner rather than revealing his conflicted emotions about Diana. Despite everything, he couldn't deny the genuine love she'd shown for Leo in the end, or her crucial role in dismantling her father's organization. Vincent continues cooperating, Doc added. His testimony has led to the arrest of 3 deep cover operatives within naval intelligence, and 16 more military spouses connected to the network, Riley finished. The entire cradle operation has been neutralized. After dinner, as Jax prepared Leo for bed, a secure message arrived from Russell. Package delivered as requested. Confirmation received. Jax smiled slightly. The package was information about Diana's mother's location in Siberia, passed through secure channels to Diana in witness protection. Using the intelligence Diana had provided, they'd located the facility where her mother had been held captive for decades. It was Jax's way of acknowledging what Diana had done right, despite everything else. As he tucked Leo into his crib, Jax studied the boy's features. He could see hints of Diana in the shape of his eyes and chin, but Leo was becoming his own person, one not defined by the circumstances of his creation. Your story starts here, Jax whispered, stroking the boy's hair. Not with what came before. The next morning, Jax took Leo to the local pier for their weekly fishing expedition. The boy was too young to actually fish, but he delighted in watching the water and the seagulls circling overhead. An elderly woman passing by smiled at them. He has your eyes, she commented. Jax looked down at Leo, who was emphatically not biologically his, and smiled. Thank you, he replied simply. As they walked home along the beach, Jax spotted a familiar figure watching them from a distance. Captain Russell, out of uniform in civilian clothes. Progress report, Jax asked when they met. Russell nodded toward Leo. He seems well-adjusted. Kids are resilient, Jax replied, echoing Doc's earlier assessment. How about the security protocols? Implemented at 17 military installations already. Your experience has helped prevent similar infiltrations. Russell hesitated. There's something else. Diana made contact with her mother in Siberia. Both have disappeared completely. Good, Jax said genuinely. Whatever his complicated feelings toward Diana, he didn't wish her or her mother further suffering at Sokolov's hands. She left something for Leo, Russell added, handing over a small package. Checked thoroughly for security, of course. Inside was a simple silver locket containing a photograph of Diana holding newborn Leo, her expression one of genuine love. A note read simply, "So he knows he was wanted." Jax pocketed the locket, deciding Leo would receive it when he was old enough to understand the complicated truth of his origins. "Will you tell him everything someday?" Russell asked, nodding toward the boy. "The truth, yes. But his story isn't defined by how he came into this world." Jax watched Leo examining a seashell with intense concentration. "It's defined by what he chooses to become." Russell nodded, understanding. "And you?" "Naval intelligence has offered you any position you want." "I've had enough deception for one lifetime," Jax replied. "My focus now is creating security protocols for military families, preventing what happened to me from happening to others." As Russell departed, Jax lifted Leo onto his shoulders for the walk home. The boy's tiny hands gripped his hair as they made their way along the shoreline. Far down the beach, nearly hidden among tourists and locals, a woman in a wide-brimmed hat briefly lowered her sunglasses. Diana, or whatever name she used now, watched them for just a moment before disappearing into the crowd. Jax pretended not to notice, continuing his walk with Leo. Whatever Diana's reasons for the brief surveillance, he decided to let the past remain in the past. His focus now was on the future, Leo's future. That evening, as the coastal fog rolled in, Jack sat on his deck watching Leo play with building blocks. His phone buzzed with a message from an encrypted source. "Thank you for everything. He deserves the life you'll give him." Jax didn't respond, simply deleting the message. Some chapters needed to close completely. "Time for bath, buddy," he said, scooping up the giggling boy. Leo's arms wrapped trustingly around his neck, the simple gesture of a child who felt safe and loved. In that moment, Jax understood that the greatest revenge against those who had orchestrated so much deception wasn't punishment or justice, but this: creating a life of honesty and love for a child they had intended to use as a pawn. Leo would grow up knowing only that he was wanted, cherished, and free to become whoever he chose to be, unburdened by the sins of those who had brought him into the world. And in that, Jax had found not just revenge, but redemption. Epilogue. 15 years later. The Naval Academy's graduation ceremony buzzed with anticipation as families gathered under the Maryland sun. At the edge of the crowd, Jackson Boone stood ramrod straight in his dress uniform, the silver at his temples and additional commendation bars the only visible changes from the man he'd been 15 years ago. "Admiral Boone," a voice called from behind. "Still standing like you're expecting an ambush." Jax turned to see Captain Warren Russell, now retired with a slight limp from an operation gone wrong years ago. "Old habits," Jax replied, clasping Russell's hand firmly. "Wasn't sure you'd make it. Wouldn't miss it. Not every day your godson graduates with highest honors." Jax nodded, his eyes scanning the sea of white uniforms until he found the one that mattered. Leo Boone, standing tall among his fellow graduates. At 19, Leo had his mother's sharp features softened by a perpetual half-smile that was entirely his own. The resemblance to Diana occasionally caught Jax off guard, a ghost from the past materializing in his son's expressions. "He doesn't know you're here," Jax said to Russell. "Wanted it to be a surprise." "How much does he know?" Russell asked quietly. "About everything?" "All of it," Jax replied. "Told him when he turned 16. Figured he deserved the truth before making decisions about his future." The memory of that conversation remained vivid. Leo sitting stone-faced as Jax explained his origins, the deception surrounding his birth, the complex truth about the woman who had given birth to him, and the man who had chosen to be his father. "How'd he take it?" "Better than I did when I found out," Jax admitted. "Asked a lot of questions. Went quiet for a few days. Then told me it didn't change anything. I was still his dad." The ceremony began. As the graduates' names were called, Jax felt Melissa squeeze his arm in support. His sister had relocated permanently to be near them after Leo's 5th birthday, becoming the stable presence they both needed during Jax's occasional deployments as a security consultant. Leo Alexander Boone, the announcer called. "Distinguished graduate, Naval Intelligence Specialty Track." Jax watched his son cross the stage, accepting his commission with measured dignity. Despite his best efforts to give Leo options beyond military service, the boy had been drawn to it naturally, not out of family obligation, but from a genuine desire to protect others from the kinds of threats Jax had spent his career combating. The reception afterward buzzed with proud families and ambitious new officers. Leo navigated the crowd with easy confidence, introducing his roommates to Jax, Melissa, and a surprised Russell. "Captain Russell," Leo exclaimed, snapping to attention before being pulled into a hug by the older man. "Lieutenant Boone now," Russell corrected with pride. "Your father didn't tell you I was coming?" "Dad likes his surprises," Leo replied, shooting Jax a knowing look. "Usually means he's trying to distract me from something else." Jax raised an eyebrow. Meaning I know she's here," Leo said quietly. "Third row left side. Blue dress, blonde hair now." "I recognized her anyway." Jax's expression remained neutral, but inwardly he cursed his son's inherited observational skills. Despite everything, Leo had developed the same uncanny ability to spot surveillance and recognize faces that had made both his biological mother and adoptive father exceptional operatives. "You're not surprised," Leo noted, studying Jax's reaction. "No," Jax admitted. "She's maintained distance, but she's checked on you at major life events. High school graduation, your 18th birthday. And you let her," Leo concluded. "From a distance. With supervision." Jax had never been able to fully separate Diana's genuine love for her son from her years of professional manipulation. The compromise had been passive observation only, arranged through Russell's channels, with strict parameters. "I'd like to meet her," Leo said simply. Jax exchanged glances with Russell, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "That's your choice," Jax replied carefully. "Always has been." Leo squared his shoulders. After the reception, he turned to greet another family. Conversation closed with the same decisive efficiency Jax recognized from the mirror. "He's more like you than he realizes," Russell murmured. "That's what I'm afraid of," Jax responded. The secure apartment in Annapolis had been arranged through channels still loyal to Russell. Diana, now calling herself Catherine Mills, sat with perfect posture on an austere sofa, her once copper hair now blonde and cropped short, her face lined but still striking at 53. When Leo entered, she stood, her composure momentarily fracturing. "You're taller than I expected," she said, her accent now flawlessly American after years of reconstruction. Leo studied her with analytical detachment. Genetic potential, finally expressed properly with adequate nutrition and exercise. She smiled faintly. "You sound like your father." "Which one?" Leo asked pointedly. Diana's expression sobered. "The one who raised you. The one who matters." Jax observed from the doorway, deliberately positioning himself where both could see him, a silent reminder of his presence without intrusion on their moment. "I have questions," Leo said, taking a seat across from her. "I expected you would. Did you ever love him?" Leo nodded toward Jax. "Or was it all operational?" Diana's gaze shifted briefly to Jax before returning to her son. "It started as operational. Became complicated." "That's not an answer." "Yes," she said finally. "I loved him. Not at first. Not when it would have mattered. But by the end, yes. It wasn't enough to overcome everything else, but it was real." Leo nodded, absorbing this. "And me? Was I just an operational asset?" "Never." Diana's response came instantly, her voice firm. "Your conception was planned without my knowledge. But from the moment I knew about you, you were never just an operation." "Is that why you've been watching me all these years?" Diana glanced at Jax, who nodded slightly, confirming Leo's awareness of her occasional surveillance. "I wanted to see the man you'd become," she said simply. "Without my father's influence. Without mine." "Your father," Leo said carefully. "My grandfather. Is he still alive?" This question Jax hadn't anticipated. Dmitry Sokolov had been sentenced to multiple life terms, his criminal empire dismantled, his influence seemingly neutralized. But bloodlines and legacies had a way of persisting beyond prison walls. "Yes," Diana confirmed. "Serving his third life sentence at ADX Florence. 79 years old now. Still pulling strings, even from supermax confinement." "Has he tried to contact me?" Diana's expression hardened. "Twice. Both attempts intercepted by security protocols your father established." Leo absorbed this, his tactical mind visibly processing implications. Would he still consider me his heir? After all this time? Leo, Jax interrupted, concern edging his voice. That's not a path worth exploring. I'm just trying to understand the full tactical situation, Leo replied, using the detached language of his training. Potential threats persist even after 15 years. Diana leaned forward. Your grandfather views legacy in terms of bloodlines and obligation. As long as he lives, he will consider you Sokolov blood, regardless of how you were raised. Leo nodded, his expression unreadable. What about your mother? My grandmother. A flicker of genuine emotion crossed Diana's face. We had 6 good years together in witness protection. She passed away peacefully in her sleep. Cancer. I'm sorry, Leo said automatically, then paused. I would have liked to meet her. She would have loved you. Diana reached slowly into her purse, withdrawing a small leather-bound journal. This was hers. Her thoughts, memories, the truth about our family, not the version my father constructed. I brought it for you. Leo accepted the journal, handling it with unexpected reverence. Thank you. The conversation continued for another hour. Leo asking precise questions about Diana's childhood, her work as an operative, the complexities of the operation that had led to his birth. Diana answered each with measured honesty, neither glorifying nor minimizing her role in the deception that had shaped all their lives. As they prepared to leave, Diana stood uncertainly, clearly wanting to embrace her son but hesitant to presume such intimacy. Leo solved the dilemma by extending his hand formally. Lieutenant Leo Boone. He introduced himself, as if meeting her for the first time. It's been informative to meet you, Ms. Mills. Diana accepted the handshake, understanding the boundaries he was establishing. The pleasure was mine, Lieutenant. You've become a remarkable young man. That's my father's influence, Leo replied pointedly, nodding toward Jax. Diana's smile held both sadness and acceptance. Yes, she agreed. It is. 2 days later, Jax and Leo sat on the deck of the coastal home where Leo had grown up, the same spot where Jax had once watched his infant son take his first steps. You've been quiet since Annapolis, Jax observed, passing Leo a beer. Leo took a thoughtful sip before responding. Processing. It's different hearing it from her. Different how? More real, somehow. Leo gazed out at the ocean. When you told me everything, it was like a mission briefing, factual, detailed, but still abstract. Seeing her, hearing her voice. He shrugged. Makes it personal. Jax nodded, understanding completely. Regret meeting her? No, Leo said without hesitation. But I don't think I need to see her again. At least not soon. He glanced sideways at Jax. Does that bother you? It's your decision, Jax replied honestly. Always has been. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves crash against the shore, the same rhythmic pattern that had formed the backdrop to Leo's childhood. I start at Naval Intelligence next month, Leo said finally. Handler says they're interested in my perspective on the updated Cradle Protocols. The Cradle Protocols, named after the operation that had nearly compromised national security 15 years ago, had become Jax's legacy to military security. Comprehensive safeguards against deep cover infiltration, regular counterintelligence sweeps, psychological support for military families, all designed to prevent what had happened to him from recurring. They should be, Jax acknowledged. You understand both sides of the equation better than most. Because of my genetics? Leo asked, an edge in his voice. Because you've lived with the consequences, Jax corrected. You understand what's at stake on a personal level. Leo nodded, accepting this. Doc called yesterday. Said Melissa's planning some kind of graduation party this weekend. Just family, Jax confirmed. Riley's bringing her kids. Doc's bringing that new doctor he's been seeing. Family, Leo repeated thoughtfully. Created rather than born into. Jax studied his son, recognizing the philosophical tone that emerged when Leo was working through complex emotional territory. Both matter, he said carefully. But one's a starting point. The other's a choice. I've been thinking about Vincent Reeves, Leo said abruptly. The name still triggered a reflexive tension in Jax's shoulders. Vincent had served 12 years before being released on medical grounds, cancer that had ultimately killed him 3 years ago. What about him? His operation was sophisticated, multi-layered, the kind of architecture that suggests a bigger picture. Leo turned to face Jax directly. Did you ever wonder if there were other operations like Cradle that weren't discovered? Jax had wondered exactly that for 15 years, had dedicated much of his career to finding and neutralizing such threats. It's possible, he acknowledged. Intelligence work is never truly finished. That's why I chose naval intelligence, Leo said quietly. Not because of you or her or any genetic predisposition, but because someone needs to keep looking for those blind spots. Pride surged through Jax, not because Leo had followed him into service, but because his son had found his own purpose within it. You'll be good at it. I had a good teacher. Leo smiled briefly. Then his expression turned serious again. There's something else. About Sokolov. Jax tensed. What about him? 3 months ago, I received a letter at the academy. Handwritten. Passed through 7 intermediaries to avoid security protocols. Leo reached into his pocket, withdrawing a folded paper. It's from him. Jax took the letter, alarm rising as he recognized the distinctive handwriting from intelligence briefings years ago. Why didn't you tell me immediately? Because I needed to decide how to handle it myself, Leo replied evenly. I'm not a child anymore, Dad. Jax read the letter carefully. Typical Sokolov manipulation. Appeals to blood loyalty. Vague mentions of a legacy waiting to be claimed. Subtle implications that Leo's career advancement could be facilitated through remaining family connections. He's testing your receptiveness, Jax concluded, keeping his voice neutral with effort. Standard procedure for recruiting potential assets. I know, Leo said calmly. I've already reported it through proper channels. Full disclosure, complete transparency. Relief mingled with pride in Jax's chest. Good. But that's not why I'm telling you now. Leo leaned forward, his expression intensely focused. The letter mentioned something specific, a storage facility in Geneva. Account number, access codes, biometric requirements. Supposedly contains your rightful inheritance, according to Sokolov. Jax frowned. Could be money. Information. Could be nothing. Just bait to establish contact. That's what I thought initially, Leo agreed. But I ran the address through naval intelligence databases. That facility was flagged in connection with 3 suspected deep cover operations in the past decade. Jax straightened, professional interest engaged. Similar to Cradle? Different methodology, same strategic objective, compromising military and intelligence personnel through personal relationships. Leo's expression was grim. The operations were discovered and neutralized, but the command structure behind them was never identified. You think Sokolov was running parallel operations even while incarcerated? I think he had contingencies in place long before his capture, Leo corrected. Dead drops, sleeper agents, autonomous cells programmed to activate under specific conditions. Jax considered this, the tactical implications unfolding in his mind. What's your next move? Officially? Continue reporting through proper channels. Build the intelligence case. Leo hesitated. Unofficially? I think someone needs to visit that storage facility in Geneva. Someone with experience dealing with Sokolov, Jax concluded. Someone not currently active in official channels, Leo agreed. Someone who could operate independently. Jax leaned back, studying his son, the tactical mind that had always impressed him, now fully formed and focused. You're suggesting I go to Geneva. I'm suggesting that if someone were to access that facility, they might find evidence connecting Sokolov to ongoing operations that official channels haven't detected yet. Leo's expression remained carefully neutral. Hypothetically speaking, and your role in this hypothetical scenario? Intelligence support only. Proper distance and deniability. Leo held his father's gaze. I won't compromise my position before I've even started, but I won't ignore a valid threat either. Jax recognized the balance Leo was striking between duty and initiative, between official protocols and practical necessity. It was a balance he himself had struggled with throughout his career. I might know someone who could help with the Geneva matter, Jax said finally. Someone with relevant experience and no official constraints. I thought you might, Leo replied with the ghost of a smile. They sat in thoughtful silence as darkness fell over the ocean. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Leo's academy experiences, Melissa's new research position, Doc's upcoming medical conference. But the underlying current remained. A new chapter was beginning. Later that night, after Leo had gone to bed, Jax made a secure call from his home office. It's been a while, he said when the line connected. Not that long, Riley Jenkins replied. Saw you at the graduation ceremony. You just didn't see me. Still keeping your hand in surveillance work, I see. Old habits. She echoed his earlier words to Russell. What's up, Admiral? You don't call this line for casual conversation. Need a team for unofficial reconnaissance. Geneva. Potential connection to Sokolov's remaining network. Riley was silent for a moment. Thought that chapter was closed. So did I, Jax admitted. But Leo received contact. Shit, Riley breathed. He okay? Better than okay. Handled it by the book, then came up with an off-book solution. Jax couldn't keep the pride from his voice. Sounds familiar, Riley observed dryly. Like father, like son. Can you assemble a team? Small, experienced, deniable. Already making a list in my head, Riley confirmed. Doc still has contacts in European medical circles. Could provide useful cover. Perfect. Initial reconnaissance only. If we find something substantial, we bring in official channels. And if we don't, Riley asked, knowing him too well, then we make sure Sokolov understands that his grandson remains off limits. Jax replied, steel entering his voice. Permanently. After ending the call, Jax moved to his desk and unlocked the hidden compartment beneath. Inside lay a silver locket, the one Diana had left for Leo 15 years ago, containing her photo with him as a newborn. Leo had examined it once after learning the truth, then returned it to Jax for safekeeping. Keep it, he'd said. I don't need a photo to know who my real parent is. Beside the locket lay another photo, Jax and 5-year-old Leo fishing off the pier, both laughing as Leo held up his first catch. The contrast between the images told the story of the choice Jax had made 15 years ago to forge a genuine family from the ashes of deception. Now, that family was evolving again. Leo entering service. Sokolov reaching out from confinement. New threats emerging from old shadows. Jax replaced the photos and locked the compartment. Whatever came next, the foundation remained solid. Leo had grown into a man of integrity and purpose, despite, or perhaps because of, the complicated circumstances of his origins. The deception that had brought them together had long since given way to the truth that kept them together. Not biology or obligation, but choice and commitment. Family, as Leo had observed, created rather than born into. The strongest kind. 3,000 miles away, in a maximum security cell at ADX Florence, Dmitry Sokolov sat perfectly still, his once imposing frame now gaunt with age. On the wall before him hung a single photograph, a surveillance image of Leo in his Naval Academy uniform, captured by one of the few assets still loyal to the old man. Sokolov, blood will tell, he murmured in Russian, his rheumy eyes fixed on the image of his grandson. Sooner or later, blood will tell. The guard passing his cell thought he was simply an old man talking to himself, irrelevant, powerless, forgotten. But in Geneva, a storage unit waited. In Moscow, 3 sleeper agents maintained their deep cover. In Washington, a network dormant for 15 years prepared to reactivate. And in Annapolis, a newly commissioned naval intelligence officer named Leo Boone prepared to face the legacy he had inherited. Not the one his grandfather had intended, but the one his father had made possible through a single choice 15 years ago, to raise a child born of deception with truth, honor, and love. The story that had begun with a lie was not yet finished, but its next chapters would be written by those who chose truth, however complicated, over the seductive simplicity of deception. That, perhaps, was the most important legacy of all. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.